Okay, so right now we're going to record. Waiting for Torin to come on in and join us. I can't hear him yet. I can see him joining Blab, but I have yet to see him yet. So it should be any minute. It should be coming on in, hopefully. And it says he's joining Blab, but he's joining Blab. I've accepted him as a caller. We haven't started recording the audio yet for the podcast, so not hearing him yet. Make sure I have my equipment here. Okay, still don't hear you yet. If you are seeing me and I'm not seeing you yet. It says that, let's see, I accepted you as a caller. Do you have your video on? That's probably a question. Do you have your mic on? And you can also send me a message in the chat too. That's so interesting. It's just right there at the picture. Well, while we're waiting for Torin to come in, I'm going to work on getting a picture up for him. Let's see if I can somehow. Okay, try it again. Accepting him. Joining Blab. And we're still waiting. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything for me to do on my end. I'm checking to see. We are still trying to get Torin in here. So those of you watching, thanks for sticking with us. Just going to take a moment. I'm going to turn off the TV since there's something that's probably glaring in the background. Still can't hear or see you. Oh, I know you're visible. I'm going to try to figure this thing out. I don't know why. You should just come on in. I don't know. Oh, hang in there, Torin. I don't see any controls for audio video. Then let's see. See, I have yet to join as a guest myself, always hosted. I'm checking now to see if there's anything else. Hold on. I can't believe we're this close, and I can't believe we're this close, and we are. I'm checking to see if there's anything. What is it about this? Okay. Okay. And okay, I see that you joined, but I still can't hear you if you are looking at me. Have you be sure you enabled your camera on your I don't know if you're using your smartphone or your laptop. I found it easier to use my smartphone and just use the app. Um, you should have come right on in. Just trying to figure out what is it that we're not doing. Oh, great. There's 10 people around and no guests. So hold on, y'all. We're still working out our little challenges, and we're just a couple of minutes behind. So please be a little more patient with us, and we'll figure it out. Okay, so he's going to try a cell to see if it'll be a little bit better experience for him. So it'll be another minute here, and we'll see if we can get that. Just hold on, y'all. Hold on. The whole screen keeps on spinning, huh? well. Okay, maybe he can get out and get back in. Let's see. Can we? Can we? There we go. Yes. Yes.
I don't know, man. A frustrating experience on my side, and I apologize to each and every individual that you had holding.
Yeah,
I just had to
not a
log
problem.
out, man. It said use it in Chrome, and I just had to put it in Firefox. So hopefully it'll stay with us. So let me just take it off of my cell phone.
Okay. All right. Well,
And
you came on through because I was going. The only way that couldn't have gone through is if your camera wasn't enabled. And I was thinking maybe because I find it easier just to go use my cell phone, and it's the cell phone, it just enacts the camera automatically as opposed to laptop. There's the noise, and then there's sometimes the other obstructions with other apps, and so I just find it easier to do it that way. So, but I'm glad you got on.
I
Great.
humbly apologize to you and to your guests, my friend. But thank you again for the invite, and thank you for being patient.
Well, not a problem, dude. I've done it a couple of times, and it was by trial and error, and there's a couple of failed times. So I can relate, and no apology really even necessary, dude. This is part of the game.
No worry. Do you are you able to hear me? Okay.
You're coming in great. In
And
fact, I have to
yeah.
kind of lower your voice level because what I'm doing is that we're recording. The audio is being recorded on Blab. The video is being recorded on Blab, but I choose to also record it into another recorder.
Okay.
So that it's easier for me to edit because this is going to be part of the podcast. And then I'm also going to release a video version, which I've got to go and edit at some point and put it up. So that'd be cool. Those of you who are watching, thanks. It looks like people are watching. And if they've bailed out, just let me know that you are. And what we're going to do is we're going to officially start the podcast recording. And what I'm going to do is just tell a little bit about Torin. And Torin, before we begin, though, did you have any questions for me?
No, man, I'm ready to roll. We've delayed it long enough, so let's make it happen, man. Get it hot.
Well, for some of you, I'm sure some of your followers and your fans are following you, know who you are. And for those who don't, this is Torin Ellis. He's founder of Torin Ellis brand, human capital strategist, diversity ambassador, interview architect, and soon to be author. Right? You're soon to have a book out here soon, right?
September 2016, my friend.
Oh, yes. And I'll leave it to you to tell the title whenever you're ready. But he's a recent winner of Top Recruiter, which is by toprecruiter.tv. Reign of Bosses is the program. So if you want to check that out, go to toprecruiter.tv. And thanks for being a part of this. And I've been watching you for a long time. as we've mutually followed each other on Twitter, on all the other channels. So it's pretty cool to see how things have developed for you and the content that you put out. So, this is a great time for us. Thanks for joining me.
And the only thing that disappoints me, if it's out there, I don't know where it is, but I need a tool to help me stay engaged with powerful and strong voices on social media, because what I always find is that, I just kind of get lucky, and you hit my feed, if you will, and I'm able to retweet the great information that you're putting out there. But you're absolutely right. I actually went back and looked, and we've been following one another on Twitter for close to almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
And so it has certainly been a very long time. And again, thank you. And thank you for the work that you continue to do. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. So this is your time where we get to talk about you and talk about what you do. And you're probably the only diversity recruiter I follow and that I know of. So I'm going to ask you to go through something you've probably gone through more than dozens of times, if not hundreds, is to describe what you do and how unique that is to the industry.
Well, I don't see it as being unique, but what I do is I participate in a sea of talented individuals. Some are disliked, but the majority of us are well liked and well respected because we do great work. And for me, I've been in recruitment since 1998. It was something that I actually decided to do after building and leading successful sales teams at MCI Communications, and MCI was that once competitor of AT&T and Sprint, if you will. And so what I decided to do when I got in recruitment is I wanted to focus on sales and sales leadership talent. And that was before I really had an understanding of technical talent. And when I started looking at the types of positions that I was recruiting for, which typically are in the $150,000 to $300,000 range back in 2000, 2005 timeframe, I noticed that there was a lack of diversity. And no matter how hard or how sincere, how genuine the effort by these organizations, because I didn't want to categorize them as being non-concerned about diversity. But when I took a look at the slate of talent, the roster of individuals that were already on board, there was always a lack of diversity. And so it has been my earnest effort over the years to make sure that when I am doing the work that I do for my clients, that I put an extra emphasis on making sure that there are diverse considerations in that pool of talent. We always ultimately hire and select whom they feel is the best candidate for the open requisition, the open position. But I make sure that I put forth a little more effort, a little more digging than they might be able to allocate in terms of time and resources.
So your clients, I imagine, knowing that and seeing your profiles on social media, that maybe sometimes you get a second look and sometimes you don't. So does that shrink the pool of possibilities for you as far as clients?
I wouldn't say it shrinks it, but it does make it a tad bit difficult, because for a lot of these organizations, almost all organizations, the end game really is about being productive, about generating revenue, generating results. And so I totally get that. Yeah. And so when you go into a conversation, when you insert yourself into a conversation the way that I do, suggesting that I am going to have an increased focus on diversity recruiting efforts, it does tend to stall the opportunity for one to get engaged with the client. The other reason why I think that I might struggle in terms of securing clients is because the aura of diversity, when the word is heard, it tends to be a negative connotation or immediately associated with someone who is African American. And time again, the articles always point to African American in terms of the leading race for diversity. And when we do these subjects, it's just, it makes the conversation really, really challenging. And so what I've tried my best to do over the last 3 years specifically is when I mention diversity, I try to define it as thought and then everything thereafter. And so if organizations understand that what I want is to really put in front of them quality candidates, not mediocre candidates, but quality candidates with high skill levels and deep experiences and skill set to do what is being requested of them to do, that they really consider that the thought that this individual will bring will help them get to the goal that they have for Q1, Q2, Q3, and beyond. It will allow them to project themselves deeper into the marketplace, to become more of a community recognized organization. And so I really try to make sure that when I do have an opportunity to work with clients, and I have some phenomenal clients, that we just simply go out and we do some great work, and we put ourselves in a position where we can become business partners and not transactional engagements.
Yeah, that's important. I think everybody, and that's good. I think it's good that you have to take the extra step and as far as the discussion is concerned, because diversity does mean different things to different people. For some people, they take offense to it, as you well know, because they think that diversity is just another word of saying that look for more Black people. Which actually it's so much broader because many different types of diversity that we have to talk about. In fact, there's some argument in using the word diversity or using inclusion. And of course, in your efforts, you're including both. So it helped people to understand, help the audience to understand what the difference is when you say diversity, inclusion, or if you really mean inclusion when you're talking to a particular client or even to a talent when you say those words.
So actually, I mean both. In diversity and inclusion, diversity and inclusion speaks to the culture. And when handled properly, the culture is what helps push companies towards the measures in which they say they are in business for. And so what I think is a problem is that, diversity initiatives are not productive without courage, without creative thought, and without resources. And when I say resources, I'm speaking leadership, money, and time. It didn't just happen overnight that we have a lack of diversity in so many spaces. I know that technology right now is taking the brunt of that conversation.
Yes.
But if we were honest with ourselves, we could look at Wall Street, we could look at the legal profession, we could look at, board director and boardships across the country. We could look at so many entities. We could look at the entertainment space. We can look at so many spaces and we could find that there's a lack of diversity. So this doesn't happen overnight. Affirmative action and all of these other initiatives have been around for 20, 30, maybe even 35 years. And yet we are where we are. In many ways, we are where we are back in 1998, back in 1991. I know early last year, Rosalind Hudnell, the chief diversity officer for Intel, she actually did an interview, and I can't remember if it was in the San Francisco Chronicle or some paper out west. But she did an interview and she simply said that Intel's diversity numbers are exactly as they were in 1998. So we didn't get here overnight. And so it takes a lot of courage. It takes, thoughtfulness, creative thoughtfulness, and it takes resources. I need to know that the leadership is involved, that they're vested, that they're willing to put the money behind the initiative. And then they will work with earnest partners such as myself, who are not just looking for a transactional engagement. I'm not looking to, run out and drop a press release saying that they are terrible at D&I. No, it's just that they're making a really, really concerted effort to make that happen. And I'll close by saying, Mark, diversity and inclusion is different depending on where we are. If I'm in a place like Utah, where there's relatively no diversity, or I'm in a city that is thriving like Seattle, Washington, where there's relatively little diversity, the numbers are going to always look different. But it's the effort that we should be measuring. And that is, to me, equally as important as that final number.
Right. There's a statement that I think I've heard on Twitter, and I think this person kind of was onto something, and maybe you can add some light to it. The person said diversity often is about numbers. Inclusion is about engagement and involvement, and for the long term. Does that make sense to you?
It most certainly makes sense. Again, for a lot of people, they see diversity and inclusion initiatives as having some sort of a finish line.
Yeah.
And when we are in a race, we are always moving to cross a finish line. But true diversity and inclusion, there is no end to that. It is an ongoing evolution. It's a part of how the company breathes and evolves and becomes who they are. When you are operating with the mantra of trying to become a 10x organization, it's something that you are constantly moving into.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there is a finish line. And I think that for companies who operate with that sort of a mindset, that becomes certainly part of the challenge.
Well, in other words, be prepared for the marathon.
Absolutely.
It's not a sprint.
Not at all.
So point well taken and understood and agreed just based on your explanation. So many times diversity and inclusion offices or initiatives are actually springboarded off of HR, off of human resources. How effective is that? And I'm going to come around to a particular point, but I think in your experience, how effective is that running through HR, or should that be its own entity, being that the resources that are used are very often have to do with training and onboarding?
Training, marketing, onboarding, recruitment. It has something to do with community engagement, social impact. Diversity and inclusion hits every single area of the business. And so when we speak specifically from the human capital space, I don't believe that HR should have the total responsibility for D&I. What I believe is that HR should have the administrative force. They should draft the policy. They should measure the enforcement of those D&I initiatives. But I actually think and firmly believe that there should be a few more layers to how the D&I initiative is rolled out. So it involves HR, but there should be a D&I officer. If the organization is large enough, I would love to see a D&I officer of some sort. And then I would like to see that tactical deployment, being waged through the business leaders and the directors, the people that have more direct impact on the employees that are doing the work.
Very interesting. So for a job seeker, as we, is primarily the focus of the podcast and what we do. And I know that you're definitely focused on the job seekers. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you. But from what view should a job seeker look at in wanting to work for a diverse company? Because they know that if they work for a company that promotes and truly practices diversity and inclusion, they're likely to get the most value out of for their career. So how does a job seeker, in your view, approach looking for companies that practice this?
So I think that the process is exactly the same, in part of, what we do, or what I wrote about in the book that's being released later this year, is how to properly go about doing a job search. And I think the first step is in their gathering. When they put together their professional spider web, when they start to identify organizations that are of interest, and they start to make the tentacles and the sinews to other competing organizations, complementary organizations, that when they start to look at all of those companies that are on that radar, that they really evaluate the organization for their mission, for their core values, for their D&I statement that may be reflected on the company career page or jobs opportunities page. But then that they go a little bit deeper, and that they start to evaluate and look at press and various articles that may or may not be found on Google, but that they begin to connect with and reach out to other current and past employees through the social media platforms and just be willing to ask honestly, what's it like in terms of a culture? I think that for job seekers, the bottom line is we have to ask questions. Too many job seekers today hide behind keyboards and enter buttons. And I don't think that that's because they don't know. It's just that it's become so routine for us to simply apply online. Mm-hmm. It's out of the ordinary for a job seeker to pick up the phone and to say, hey, Mark Dyson, I hear that you're hiring for a VP of sales or a logistics manager. And I was hoping that I could get your email address. Mm-hmm. No, we don't do that. We tend to just simply apply online. We cross our fingers and we hope that Mark Dyson sees our resume and that it rises to the top. But Mark Dyson is looking at 400 resumes for the same position. Mm-hmm. So I just think that job seekers must get more aggressive about their outreach. They cannot be afraid to pick up that phone and call and engage in conversation and get the intel and the recon that they need to make a more informed decision.
Yeah, the idea of being passive is long gone, as you and I know. Because people, I think we think that the world revolves around our thoughts. They think that, that people will get us, but it's so much more than that. And I think you hit on something that's very basic. But I think very often that people, you're right, people don't dig deep. And they don't think in terms of driving, looking ahead 12 feet as opposed to looking ahead 6 feet. So in our view, as people who are advocates for job seekers and people who are also advocates for diversity and inclusion, are you finding that your clients are still not understanding how to use social media as a tool, not as not just as something to release family information or to conduct a social life, but the social proof that we often need and that we should look for through social media? Do you feel like people are beginning to understand how useful those tools that we talk about, the Twitters, the Snapchats, the LinkedIns, are they realizing how critical it is now to use those tools?
It's a measured yes. I believe that certainly as we continue to move, I believe Twitter is close to 10 years old at this point. And so, yes, people are utilizing it. They're recognizing the power of hashtags and, how such can lead them to employers, to recruiters, to opportunities based on those keywords. So most certainly it is a measured yes. But the further measurement will come because, again, we just need more individuals understanding the power of where we are right now, mm-hmm. and especially where industry is moving. And so I don't see social media ever, evaporating from life as we know it. I don't see that as an absolute statement, but certainly feel like it is in some form going to be around for at least the next generation, through various iterations, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that the sooner candidates are able to adopt it, to master it, to be able to use it so that they can get to the job opportunities that they want, mm-hmm. The ideal opportunity that they desire, mm-hmm. I think that, we'll be in a far better place. But overall, I believe that people understand the value of social media. My disappointment just comes in the fact that not enough emphasis, not enough response is given to people like you and I, if you will. Mm-hmm. We still live in a space and a time where entertainment is king. But I think that, when it's all said and done, people like you and I are critical. We're important. In the livelihood of individuals. So I'd love to see them use social media for these positive reasons equally as much as they use it for entertainment.
Yeah, I think, people underestimate and they underuse that everything they do online is your brand. And
absolutely,
everything is fair game. So in this political climate these days, as well as entertainment, and sometimes you almost can't tell the difference between the two, that your comments are going to make a difference in whether somebody's going to be impressed for you by that. And you can look at it two ways. You look at it, hey, my comments are not the kind of comments that if you follow me, then that means you agree with me. If you don't follow me, that means you don't. That means I probably wouldn't work for you. At the same time, those who look at your comments and your activities, especially those who are concerned with working for diversity inclusion companies that promote those ideals, not only within the company culture, but also in their community work, that they do care that sometimes that your comments online are also reflective of the way that you respond and interact personally. So if you say something disparaging about even a politician, it could be taken as this is what you would do to my client. Do you find there still being truth in that?
Absolutely. I'm smiling because, there are often times that I will type literally, and I'm telling you the truth. Mm-hmm. There are times that I'm driving in and around Baltimore City. There are times that I'm sitting in my office at my desk and I just want to type out a comment, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And those are the three primary ones that I use. And then, of course, I use Instagram. Mm-hmm. But there are comments that I will type out. And then I'll have to erase them. Yes. I just have to type them out. Yes. I got to see it. I have to feel that I was able to sort of say what I was feeling, if you will. Yes. And then I'll erase them because I'm always conscious of the fact that people can go through my streams. They can go through my timelines and they can pull out bits and pieces of things that I've said. They can mash it together. There's so many things that people can do. And so I always try to be seen as a brand ambassador for the clients and the candidates that I'm representing. Yeah. And I really mean that. And so as a candidate that's working with me, I want them to know that if I'm representing them and serving them up, if you will, presenting them to a potential employer, that employer has a favorable impression of me beyond the fact that I'm just a recruiter, but that they trust me to bring them the type of people, but that all of what I do in terms of my professional life is something that's totally and completely above board. And the same works well with the client, the companies. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want them to look at my LinkedIn feeds or any other feed and say, you know what, this is a little questionable, what Torin put up. And it's not that I'm not authentic, because believe me, I am authentic. And there are certainly some times where I will drop my comments and I will leave them there. Mm-hmm. I may have to massage them, to take out some of the emphasis, if you will, but I am always going to be authentic, and I'm not afraid to speak up as it relates to diversity and inclusion. I actually just posted an article last night on my Facebook page, a recent piece that the Harvard Business Review did that actually says, it was titled "Women and Minorities Are Penalized for Promoting Diversity." Mm-hmm. What a scathing article. Yeah. How terrible is that for you to say that, for people who care about diversity, they're actually being penalized inside of some of these companies. Yes. So, we posted that article on Facebook. I posted it on LinkedIn, and it'll probably be one of those articles that I'll post for once a month for the next 6 months, because I want people to understand that when I call and say that we're doing this, because there's a genuine need for so many reasons for this focus, I want them to know why we do it.
Yeah. You and I both post things on Facebook. I saw your article on Facebook. I'm going to repost it on my Facebook page and then my personal Facebook, because that's what I usually regularly post, things like that. And I've gotten a little pushback, from it. And, but for my brand, that's what I do. If I'm going to be the voice of job seekers, I've got to be everybody's voice, not just my own. And so that's part of my brand. But I think for job seekers out there, they need to consider what is a brand. We're not saying don't post controversial stuff. I would say that even in this age, context, if you understand how to bring context to a discussion, you can post almost anything without it being completely offensive if you understand how to build context around it. If you know how to build a discussion around it, not so much is a judgment about it. And I think there's two different things. So, I think it would even boost a job seeker brand if they added more context instead of just pushing the title out and pushing the link out and say, yes, I've done my social media duty.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, it's thoughtfulness, and it just shows to me that we are aware of much more than just one thing,
Yeah.
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can add some value to the situation. What clients are looking for are candidates that can come into the organization, provide a bit of creative thought. They are individuals that have a low level of attrition or the propensity of attriting under a 24-month period.
Mm-hmm.
They want candidates that can come in and push play. They can be productive in a less than 90-day period. That's what clients are looking for. What candidates are looking for are opportunity. And what I have is a formula. I have a formula for how I work with my candidates. I look for candidates that are looking for knowledge, opportunity, and financial gain.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say knowledge, part of that is my being able to look at your social media feed and are you showing me that level of thoughtfulness? Are you showing me that you are aware of your space, the industry in which you claim to be a professional in? Are you able to categorize and show me that? Because if you are, I am gladly going to point the client over there to take a look at who you are. It just adds another layer to that candidacy beyond and better than the resume. The resume is just something to get the door open. It's something to start the conversation, but there's so many layers to these complex, scenarios. And I want people to get the full range of who a candidate really is.
Yeah. I think that, these days, not only just the resume, but your complete social networking profiles are your resume as well. The web is
absolutely
the web is your resume. It's the first thing that employers are going to start looking for, and you should want to point them there instead of pointing them away, because you start not referencing it on your resume. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile link there on your resume, I think it looks like you're hiding something, but that's for a whole nother discussion. Just one or two more things I want to get with you. I don't know if anybody in the audience has any questions, and I'll entertain those if they want, as long as you have the time. But I think one of the other issues that I think we often talk about, like we said, diversity and inclusion is so much more than just color. There's the issue of people who are differently able. There's the issue of gay, transgender. Those people want to stand out too, and not only they want to stand out, but they want to be accepted for who they are. And they want you to know, not because they're daring you. And I think some companies take offense to whether this person has showed it. And it's not that you're going to glean it all from the resume, but I think that in your experience, and this is the question, in your experience when you're dealing with the other issues, diversity and inclusion, do you find that there are some issues more than others that get a little bit more of a complex reaction as far as the companies you deal with? And if so, then what can job seekers do to either improve their presentation or find a better way to approach a company, especially if they're not relying on their resume anymore, if they're using their social profiles and they're using, if they're targeting companies to talk to, as opposed to going the traditional route, which is relying on a job board.
Well, again, I think that, when you ask, are there certain aspects that are more prevalent than others? When you mention those that are differently abled, the LGBTQ, different races, different religions, different ethnicities, different political leanings, different. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at diversity, and one of the things that we had not, covered is a subject called covering. And actually, I did some training for social talent out of Dublin, Ireland, about a month ago. I recorded about 4 hours of training, if you will, trying to help recruiters around the country to be better ambassadors of the recruitment profession. And recognizing that covering based off of Irving Goffman's 1963 book. The title of the book is Stigma. And really what covering talks about how individuals depart from, their pre-approved standards of others. And when that happens, when that departure begins to happen, that they sometimes kind of fall back into the shadows, if you will. And when covering, what people do is we hide as it relates to advocacy. We hide as it relates to our appearance. We hide as it relates to affiliation and association. And when I say hide, synonymous for the word covering, we try to downplay certain aspects of who we are. I'll give you an example to try to help you with that. Anybody who does a Google search of images of me, they will see pictures of me in the late 90s, early 2000. I used to have locks, and the locks were down to the middle of my back.
Okay.
And while well-groomed and extremely professional, and the same conversation that I had today, I myself, as confident as I am, the voice of a lion, as confident as I am, I still hesitated to sometimes go out and meet with clients because I felt like they would be focused on my hair and not necessarily the thoughts that were emanating from my mouth. And so I didn't know then that I was covering, but that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was hiding, as I accused some of the job seekers of a few moments ago. I was hiding behind the phone. I would do calls, I would build my relationships, but I would never go face to face and engage with the clients. And so I think that, from those four, tenable areas: appearance, advocacy, affiliation, and association, you have a lot of candidates, you have a lot of job seekers right now that are hiding, that are not being truly authentic. They're not bringing their whole selves to the equation. And so what I say to clients is you have to try to nurture an environment that allows those individuals to really open up and give you what they have to give you, so that we can really see where our organization can be, where we as a team can really be. And I think that it's extremely important that both sides of the equation continue to try to push the envelope and the boundary of that particular aspect. We have to try our best to do away with covering and allow individuals to be their authentic self in the workplace.
Well, that's a very interesting point. It's a very important point that you brought up. In the workplace, as job seekers, I think it is true, and I don't think you intended to this up, is how important it is to be authentic, and that the nurturing the conversation is your responsibility. And I think, pretty much a lot of people let networking events and conversations where anytime where you have to impress someone that you're the right fit for a situation, that you don't realize how much power you actually have in your words and the way that you do it. And it is an opportunity to build that bridge and to fill in the gap. Many people don't see that as an opportunity because they think that everything's controlled by whoever you're at the mercy of, instead of taking the point of that I have an opportunity to make a favorable impression because I can also nurture the way I come across in a way that is favorable and likable for more people to like me as I am?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you again, you mentioned something, and I just shared with a potential client last night on a discovery call, that the onboarding begins the moment I reveal the client company name.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I am working with the candidate or the job seeker and I'm doing some of the pre-work, if you will, just discovery and talking about their background and all of that great stuff, that's cool. But the moment I tell them who I'm considering submitting them to, that's when the onboarding period begins. And it's from that particular moment, because I now am the face of the client.
Mm-hmm.
I have to protect that relationship from that particular moment all the way down. And what I explained to this recruiter, this director of recruitment, is that onboarding period actually lasts for 6 months. I think too many of the organizations have it wrong, and they tie the onboarding period to a 90-day period. It's actually a 6-month period.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe if we can nurture, the sort of scenario, the environment, the workflow, the process, if we can nurture the mentorship and the strategic collaboration and just everything about being at this particular company, if we can nurture that for a 6-month period, we have a higher propensity of having a more productive employee, one that's fully engaged, more engaged in helping you to grow your organization. So covering is definitely a part of that, and we try to make sure that we address that. I don't deem myself to be a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly can train, and I can talk about a variety of subject matter, if you will, related to the human capital space.
Right.
But I am a virtuoso at recruitment, and I try to stay in my lane. I just try to make sure that I bring more value by talking about some of these other, tangential, aspects that are important to the recruiting process.
Yes. Well, today you provided a lot of value, and I really appreciate you spending time with us here at the Voice of Job Seekers. Of course, when your book comes out, I hopefully you'll find a little time to come back and share that with us. And I think it's going to be something really special, especially knowing you now and knowing the type of content in your mission. That's very important. So if people want to get to know you and to see more from you, how should they contact you?
So across all of social media, I'm at Torin Ellis. That's Torin as in negotiate, ELLIS. Website is torinellis.com. Title of the book is Rip the Resume. Version 1 will be out in September of 2016. We are already in talks with the publisher for version number 2 in 2017. I can't reveal the direction that we're going to go with that, but I can promise you that there's nothing like it in the human capital space inside of a Barnes & Noble. So the book, Rip the Resume, will be available on college and university campuses all across the country, and Barnes & Noble bookstores, at Amazon, all across the place. I mean, I have a really fantastic publishing company they're putting a whole lot behind the book because they see value in having a 2016 conversation around the job search, and not and having that conversation with someone who's an actual recruiter and not a recruiting practitioner, and not someone who sort of compiled a bunch of articles, and if you will. So again, not taking anything away from the other books, because I'm sure they're of value. But I'm looking forward to Rip the Resume coming out in September of 2016.
Right. And I should also mention, too, you're on Sirius XM on the Karen Hunter show on 126. That's still going on, right?
Absolutely. Every single Monday, you can catch us live on the Karen Hunter show on Sirius XM channel 126. You can download the app for your Android, iPhone device. If you're not a Sirius XM subscriber, the app is free, I believe, for 30 days. You can find Karen on KarenHunterShow.com. She's phenomenal. The mission of her show is money, power, and respect. And again, what we're doing is something that's not being done, particularly in urban radio. We are talking about career development. We're talking about disruption. We're talking about diversity and innovation. And that's not something that's happening a lot on radio. And so I so completely appreciate Karen for seeing fit to include me in the conversation and allowing me to be in a position to use that platform to dole out useful and actionable advice each and every Monday.
Yeah, I heard the first show. It's really a great show. I've got to get back to it. You should provide a podcast for it. That's just for that segment. That's just my opinion, but
No worries. No, I actually drop the SoundCloud typically every week.
oh, nice. Okay.
I'll title it Reload on my Facebook page, and I tend to put up the SoundCloud from the previous week and then usher in the new conversation. So this coming Monday, what we're going to be talking about is resale value. Mm-hmm. So we like to tease people, but we'll be looking at resale value of a current employee. How do you make it so that your stock continues to rise inside of the organization?
Wow.
So that's the discussion for Monday.
Excellent. Okay. So everyone be hip to that. And again, Torin, thanks for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers. And those of you who are listening on, be sure you look for the announcement when this is going to be published as a podcast. And I'll probably see if I can embed, I can edit the video and maybe have that available a little bit early, and I'll let you know, Torin, when that's available. So if you want to share it, you can share it with your people. Of course, a lot of your peoples are my people. So, so this has been great. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Voice of Job Seekers.
Mr. Mark Anthony Dyson, thank you. I appreciate it. Make sure you have a fantastic day.
All right. So I'll be talking with you soon, and I'll let you know the progress of the show. I've got a number of shows I'm kind of juggling around. So I'll keep you posted.
Beautiful. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon.